Hi there. Well, this is December 24th, so it's Christmas Eve. And, of course, it's an opportunity to dig deep and think about something interesting or special you want to have with dinner. Of course, you could just say, okay, I'm going to have the fanciest bottle, the most expensive bottle, this thing I've had for a long time that I've been waiting to open and enjoy, and it's worth it and all that stuff. Yes, of course, it's all valid. But it's also an opportunity sometimes to open up something that has, a different kind of meaning to you, or maybe different kind of attachment. And it may or may not be the best bottle you have, but it's something that means something to you. This is the case here. This is William Hill, forgive the label, 1980 golden label Cabernet. This is really interesting to me anyway, because William Hill was a winery that was actually started in the late 70s by a fellow named William Hill. That was back in the time where Napa was still developing. There were still new businesses, new wineries being formed, startups. So this fellow started, basically, it was a startup. He raised money. My father-in-law was one of the investors, and they started this winery. And they really, right off the bat, starting in 78 and others, they really had some terrific vintages. And I remember, 20, 25, 35 years ago when I met my wife and her family, this was one of my first sort of introduction to Napa wine, and it was just really terrific. And the winery has sold, and it still kept the name, and it's gone through. Now it's still present, but it's not, I don't think it is what it used to be. In any case, my father-in-law is not with us anymore, sadly, but I did find a couple of bottles between my basement and theirs, including this one, that I held on to, and I figured, you know what, I'm sure it's not going to be terrific because it's been 40 years, but you know what, it's a family event. We all hit together, the four of us, and so why not? So this is not something you want to open way in advance. It's not something you want to decant because it probably cannot take the additional oxygen. So I just opened it, poured a little glass, and we're gonna try it together. Look at the sediment here. So it seems that probably at the time it wasn't really filtered or anything like that. The label has been damaged just by being in the basement for all this time. And the color is, it's funny. It's not as faded as I would have expected. Not as brown. Let's say it's got a little bit of brown. It's got a bit of an orange rim, but not too much. It still looks, looks like a 20-year-old wine. I mean, maybe, okay. It says 13% alcohol. So back in those days, Napa was not 15 and 16%. And it still has life in a bouquet. It's got a little bit of Madeirized, sort of notion, because it gets to be a little sweeter, and the cooked fruit when the wine ends up being a little bit oxidated. The cork was okay, but a bit soft. And you feel it, you smell fruit, red fruit, and a little bit of licorice, which is sort of, anise, which is sort of interesting too. So there's still vigor in the bouquet. And again, it doesn't need a lot of air, but it doesn't really release a lot more things. It's still the same kind of stuff you got in the beginning. Let's taste it. It's borderline. I mean, it's totally drinkable. I'm going to enjoy it with dinner because it's going to be with food, and some of that extra acidity is still there, will be absorbed by the food. And I think we're going to enjoy because it reminds us of, things and the family and what have you. And also it's not bad. I mean, it's just an example of, if you have got something and you're laying around, just open it. I mean, I've had 15-year-old bottles that were much worse than this. So you just never know. And sometimes you don't know how the bottle was preserved and what kind of storage it was in, but you can take a look at it, you can observe it. There wasn't really a lot, the level was at the shoulder, so it wasn't down too much. And it's gonna evolve a little bit. I do have a little bit of that sort of underbrush now coming through, and I think we're going to enjoy it. I may have a plan B just in case we want more, or my crowd here ends up being too tough. But I think this is definitely worth at least the sentimental value for Christmas. I have another one, 1986, that we'll probably drink very, very soon as well. Let me just take another sip. It's different. That's the other thing. I think you just had a totally different aspect of wine. And maybe it's not the same that you would expect in a top flight, perfectly aged wine, but it gives you an idea for what things happen with wine over time as well. And they're not all unpleasant. Cheers and Merry Christmas.